Hi, Nicholas.
Hello.
Let's speak about your piece frequencies. Can you give some background of it, right? For when it was written, who commissioned?
Yes. But first, I have to say frequencies is a cycle of work comprising like more or less something like 10 works that are very different, some one from one another. Some are working with the tuning forks and some with digital synthesis. And the one you're talking about, frequencies light quinta, which is my most known work, is an installation with sound and light. And it was commissioned by Laboral in Spain, in Gijón, by Daniel Romero, and the it was co-produced by the first version was co-produced with by Laboral and Perte de Signal, which is a non-profit artist organization in Montreal. And yeah, and there was the commission was basically like the I had a carte blanche. I don't know if that's a word we use in English, but I was free to do whatever I wanted. Uh, and the commission was more about doing a sound work, so pure sound work. But then I just worked my way and I was trying things and trying to develop this idea. I was already working a lot with acrylic and light, and I finally arrived with that kind of big thing, sculpture, let's say, sound and light sculpture. And yeah,
Yeah, and what is the concept of light quanta?
yeah. So the concept of light quanta, I wanted to work with the quanta is the smallest energy unit, you know, and I wanted to transpose that in the first place in the sound realm. So just working with the smallest sound possible. So there was something about, yeah, just working with the small, which is a topic I've been working on for since almost the very beginning of my career. Um, Working with the small instead of the big. But in the end, it's quite it's my biggest road case, at least. So it's a kind of a big thing. And so I just started to with the sound actually. So I just made really tiny bits of sounds and I wanted to make something algorithmic, something that would never be the same, that would just continuously like evolve in time. And yeah, so I made 100 little snippets of sound that are between the length is between like not even a second to maybe 3 or 5 minutes. And those 100 sequences are played like in random, more or less. Um, so it's this relation with quantum physics, where you take the smallest unit to make something really finite, to make something that is infinite. You know what I mean? So from the smallest, tiniest particles, we have our whole never-ending universe, playing with some notions like discontinuity and probability, and as well, the light part, which is like the quanta, is basically the the element of light, and So I made this though like this 100 plates of acrylic um, with engraved designs that are recalling some lectures I made on the quanta and the quantum and the quantum physics and all this. And then yeah, the piece is just playing by itself with no beginning, no end, and yeah, that's about it.
But it's
Is
more
that
it it is more like a concert piece, or it's more like installation. How you?
it's really an installation piece. It's not a concert piece at all. Like you just enter the room and it's there, and you can go around the piece. And this is something quite interesting because if you go around the piece, the visual is really important, and because you have all the reflections, like it's all like transparent plates one after the other, and the design, let's say yeah the graphic on the first plate will repeat itself on the other plates after, and then you can move around and just like discover, it's never really the same, nor the sound or the music is never exactly the same. And yet it's all the same 100 elements that are always articulated in different ways.
Yes.
Like the visual is algorithmic as well. So you have, it's never the same. It's like a superposition of different visuals. I think it's never the same visuals that will be superimposed. So it's always like a new vision, a new angle on the same material, more or less.
Yes. And how you came up with the title of the piece?
Yeah, it was by reading, the frequencies. So all the frequency series, there's something about the titles that changed in my creative life with the frequency series. The titles are, and I don't know if I'm not really answering your question. I will like do a whole a parenthesis on that topic. But for me, the what is more and more important in the way I work is just like that the work I will do during a certain time frame is what is important. It's not the works themselves. Like, it's not like this piece is, you've got piece one, piece two, piece three. For me, this is a least and least important. What is important is that during that year and that year, I worked around those topics. You know what I mean? So frequencies is like a period of my life. And like the very first piece of the series with the tuning fork was really to say that I was going from more noisy material to more purer material. So this is why at the beginning I named the series frequencies to make a point that I was like less into like rich sound material and really to more pure sound material. And then in parenthesis of the frequencies, there's like a specification, like what is the more specific topic of that piece in that whole series, which represent that time frame of my life. So, so the first piece was frequencies A. A was for acoustic. So it was the acoustic sound of the tuning fork. And then there was frequencies, synthetic variations. That was a series of variation it was my first synth-based piece, basically. And then frequencies like quanta was more about the, well, the granular, the particle, and so like another basic form of sound, let's say.
Yes.
Maybe not really pure, but the fact that it's really like I'm basically working with clicks, you know, the
Yes.
smallest sound unit is a click, basically. So so this is why I named it that way, and just this interest I had for quantum physics in that time, which is already 10 years ago, and I'm not there anymore. So I don't really, that's a problem I was telling you about when I have to talk about my old piece. Um, I don't often remember what I wanted to do, you know, like 10 years ago. I remember a little bit,
Hmm.
but but not everything. I just remember that I was really into quantum physics and that was really my thing. But now it's really like gone and I'm in something else, I guess. And
And do you remember, do you have some kind of special message, what you want to communicate with that piece about quantum physics?
mm, honestly, a message is not really my cup of tea. Um, I'm more about generally my work is more about it's like a reflection, like a you know um I'm sorry, I'm searching my words because I've got words in French in my head and I'm trying to transpose in English, but it doesn't always goes well. Um, yeah, it's a reflection on the medium itself, on the how you compose music itself. It's really like uh, discipline, no centric. You know what I mean? So it's not about like giving, I don't know, this emotion or something. It's just about like I'm working in the field of sound and light and what what can I do? What can I propose to just continue to work that way, you know, and just for instance, just the fact that I've been working with this 100 sequences is already like it was not easy to compose, you know, like compositionally speaking, if that's a word. It was like a good challenge to make something that was like algorithmic and at the same time like to have this kind of precision in the articulation of the 100 words, I might say. Like for me, it's like if I had like 100 words, just like always playing in random, but I still want to keep some kind of coherence in the whole thing. I don't, do you follow me?
Mhm.
Yeah. So just that, you know, it's humble as a proposal, but it's already just like proposing how to approach that. And just the fact that I'm blending like electroacoustic music techniques with visual arts and the fact that it's an installation, you know, it's just um, like throwing ideas in the field of what can we do with sound composition and how can we, yeah, continue to work in that vein. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, and for this, right? No, I just wanted to ask you, uh, what are those, right? What are there was some kind of sensorial experience which you wanted to experience me as a watcher of the piece?
Yeah, I had an idea in mind. I mean, it's a quite a poetic idea. But as I was reading a lot, like about protons, accelerators, and stuff like that, uh, my idea was a bit like that's a good question you're asking, because it's not the same that the previous question. So it's not the message, but an intention, like something some kind of a feeling that I would maybe hope people would get. So this intention was a bit like putting yourself, like as an auditor, or audiovisual person, um, a spectator, yeah, that's the word. So putting yourself in one of those machines, like these, how do you call them? The collider.
Mhm.
I forgot the name. Do you know what I mean? The proton collider, the
Yes,
thing in.
yes. Yeah, no, I don't know the word, but I can imagine what you're saying, right? There is some accelerators and etc., right?
Yeah. So and large hadron collider. So it's a bit like if you were in that thing, and just like if you could watch the particles moving super fast. And so it's a bit a poetic take on that idea, but I don't know if it's working in the end, honestly. And I never asked anybody. I never talked about this to anybody. The thing I know that it seems to fascinate people, because people were staying and
Yes.
moving around, and so that's cool.
Yeah. And how long it took for you to create a piece?
It took me, I would say, about a year, more or less. I started with just the sound, and I didn't really knew actually if there would be a visual part. But then I had some ideas, and I tried things, and it worked, and I was able to have a bit of a budget. So yeah, maybe a year, more or less.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
Mhm.
do you remember what kind of stages you went through during creating?
Um, well, like the first stage, really just like trying to create. I use there's a label who is now called Editions 901, who released the music part of the project. And in the days, it's the same label, more or less, but they had another name. It was called Pharmacia 901. And they released this software, this granular synthesis software programmed by Ennio Matson. And so I started to use that software as just to create uh, granular sounds. And then I I guess I just made those 100 snippets of sound from what I thought was interesting. And then I took a lot of time just to from what I remember, a lot of time was about trying to put the really right amount of silence before and after every sound. And we're talking about like fractions of seconds, just so when I was playing like all the sounds in random, it would always feel right. You know what I mean? But it was just about like adding a bit of silence there, removing a bit there, and that was, and I don't know, when I say it like this, I feel it sounds a bit silly to say that, but it was musically speaking, at least, it was like the most difficult part for me to find the right amount of silence. So everything was always falling in the right place despite the randomness. And then there was this prototyping with the visual phase. I started to cut like little, well, there's I already had my light rig. So I knew what my USB DMX interface was. I knew what my DMX to voltage interface was because I'm using all the same system in all my pieces. So then I just started to try things with acrylic plate panels. And then at one point I don't have like my money was quite, I didn't have a big budget at all. So I just had to like ask the fabricator I'm working with, the Robocut, they are called. It's a company just like a fab lab, a big fab lab. And I was just like, okay, we need to do this. So I sent there was and just before actually, oh yeah, just before I sent it to the fabrication, I I just decided of like a graphic concept, and this really small part that was just before the fabrication was what changed everything actually, because it was not really nice what I was doing with the acrylic panels, but then I had just a flash, like just at last minute, and this is what is working. I can show you something. I've got some
Mhm.
images here
Yes, yes, it will be nice.
if you want to.
Yes.
Um, so this is my desktop, and this is just a presentation. So this is the piece we're talking about, just so
Yes.
people know. And this is the books I was reading without understanding any of that, actually. Like mathematics is not my thing. But then I fall on those kinds of graphics, those this graphic here and Feynman. And then let me, I will open the presentation if it's working, yes, because I think there's an animation somewhere. Um, so this is what I told you. This is the machine. And yeah, so I just like took, like this graphic here. I just took it and I did like a poetic, just stylistic version of it. And I took several graphics like that I found in books. And yeah, and then I just, when I was talking about the superposition of graphics, so if I'm taking just one part and I'm superposing it to another part, it's just creating something else, and I did this like 1,000 times, and then it can give things like that, this superposition we're seeing here. um so that was an idea. This is like the visual idea came just at last minute, and this is what makes the work make the work works. This is what is really working. Is graphically, it's working. It's the grid effect. Everything was put on a grid, so everything is kind of
Yes.
falling visually at the right spot. And so this is working quite well. This is when I was in yeah, so then you were talking about the steps in the works, right?
Yes.
So I made the fabrication here, and then I had to go to Spain to finish the work. So all the big kind of sculpture was sent to Spain. And then this is where I kind of decided about the audiovisual relationship. So this is a part that wasn't really done yet. And so I just printed all my visuals like that on the floor. And I tried to, every 100 sequences, I was like picking uh, what kind of graphic I wanted to have more, like I said earlier, often it's algorithmic, sometimes it's all is decided. So this sound sequence, I want, for instance, all the circles, so it's giving like this kind of tube effect. And or sometimes I want the lines, the oblique lines, but all played in random, for instance, and things like that. So this is what I did. So this is me working with the what I call my visual score, which is on the floor, and I was just trying, uh, what kind of audio-visual relationship could work. So that was really fascinating because before I arrived there, I didn't knew really what if it would work. I never saw it because I don't have the money to prototype. So it's just a matter of chance, when I arrived, I took the sculpture out of the case, and then I plugged my thing, and then it was like, I just hope it's gonna be nice. And it went well. Like this is the prototype I did before, smaller, and it wasn't really nice. I was trying to drill some holes in the plastic to make like particles, but it wasn't really nice. So I'm more happy with what I did in the end. Oh, we have this small prototype moving.
Mhm.
So it wasn't there yet.
And what kind of software and hardware you use for this piece?
Um, well, software, it's super classic. I'm using Ableton Live.
Mhm.
So everything I like, I like when things are simple. This is something I'm really into because everything is always going complicated at one point. So I like to centralize everything. I really like Ableton Live, especially because of the fact you can have max MSP in there. So basically I can do more or less everything I want with just like this one software, as long as I can use Max.
Yes.
And it's helping me a lot with the music part because it's really intuitive, and so I can have the tech and the music in the same software. So for me, this is a big important thing. Um, then, well, there's a part, the communication with the lights. It's all like I've got MIDI that is sent to DMX, and then I have this USB to DMX interface called UDMX, which is made in Switzerland. And then I have another, like I said earlier, DMX to voltage interface made by Celestial Audio. And that's about it. Like, this is a question I'm often asked, but I'm kind of, I don't know, it's really weird because I work in technology, but I feel kind of technology retarded. And at the same time, technology for me is not an interest.
Mhm.
It's just a mean. Like if I want to do something, I will try to make it work. And for this, I will try to fetch the good technology for it. But it's not like it's not something I'm having fun with, So like this installation, technologically speaking, it's really super basic. I mean, it just like MIDI transferred to DMX, transferred to voltage and to lights, And yeah, and then what is working, it's just, I think, the whole thing which makes it interesting. And is it, you know, at the base, I'm a composer, so is it working in time? You know, does the effect as a spectator, is it cool to be there in a certain amount of time? And if so, well, that's cool. But yeah, so technology is not really my cup of tea, ironically.
Right. I still understand it's generative work, right? Or piece.
Yeah, because I mean, there's
Past or changes, and as well, are there some kind of structure how it evolves, or it's pure like random?
there's some structures, because yeah, it's a good question. There's a kind of a balance to find between structure and randomness, because if it would only be randomness, then it's just noise, you know, just this is random. So the first element of structure, and when I'm talking about the 100 little snippets, those are structured. So it's not synthesis, it's just it's really sound samples. So those samples are always the same. What is changing is the order they're played with. And when the order is changing, then the relationship is changing. So the perception of what we receive is changing as well. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then visually, it's a bit the same thing. Like on the panels, we have some graphics. They're always the same. They're not moving. They're engraved in the acrylic panels. But then it's never the same that will open up. So the relation will change. If you have a line over a circle, or if you have only lines, the same line going for all the 100 panels, then it's not the same. So again, there's some randomness, but there's also structure. Structure is a bit my thing. Like, I think that's the thing I'm good at.
Mhm.
So there's always structure everywhere in everything I do, more or less in everything I do.
And do you have some idea as well how to, or how it was, how you connected sound and light? What is concept behind? Is this interplay?
Yeah, there's some ideas. I mean, like the conceptual idea was just to go back to, you know, to be really honest, I don't even remember. I just remember it was really clear in the 10 years ago why I was like my conceptual justification of using light. Like the quanta is the, if I remember, is like the thing that is embedded in light, right? It's like the smallest particle of light. So this is for the conceptual part. Then for the relationship, uh, there's this one-to-one relationship, like, you know, I have a sound and the light goes on and the sound disappeared, the light disappear. So this is like the most basic relationship, which is honestly almost always working, and maybe deceptively always working. Like, it's a bit too easy. You light a light and you put a sound on it and it will just work, you know? So it's a bit too easy. So when I work with light, I try to, and thanks to my PhD supervisor, Pierre-Alexandre Tremblay, he's the one who gave me this idea. Um, so I try to disconnect those relationship, and like to, you know, for instance, to do a fade in with a light and the sound will interrupt the light, or the other way around. And so there's all these interplays that are possible and cool and fun to play with, and that are enriching the audiovisual discourse. But then what I wanted to say, light, sound. But then the most effective part is the part that I didn't plan at all. It's just like the reflection of the light on the other plates. So if, on my 100 panels, if I only have the first panel, which is
Yes.
lit up, it will reflect on the other and it will like naturally fade out in the structure. And that wasn't planned. And this is the magic for me is coming a lot from that, from the fact that just the natural fade out of light, the clair obscur. You've got the light and obscurity, this dialogue, natural dialogue between the light and the obscurity, let's say, that is moving all the time. Yeah, this is what I think is working in that piece.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the same piece but without light? Would it be? Would it make
Um, it exists because, like I said, there's this label edition 901 who released the sound only edition, and it's actually I think I have a slide in my presentation about that. Do I? Just give me. Yeah, that's it. So I will share my screen again. So when they released the music, they did it with a software, and it was designed by Ennio Matson, the same who I use the software for granular synthesis. And basically, it's super basic, but it's just when you play start, instead of going in Apple Store or I don't know, Spotify, you add the software, and when you play start, it just plays the file in random. Um, so it exists, but then is it the same piece? Probably not.
Mhm.
It's so when the music only version is called frequencies sound quanta because I wanted to emphasize the fact that it's sound only. Yeah, so I don't think it's the same piece. It's a bit like if you go see a theater play or a dance show, you can listen to it on your TV screen, but is it the same piece? I don't know.
Right.
Like when I'm doing performances, like there's a lot of performances that I'm not releasing on CD or digital release because I think they're made to be lived in a space and not to be listened to at home. So
Yes. Can you imagine the same piece, but not as installation, but as a concert piece? Would it be that possible?
um I mean, it would be a variation of it. It could work. I could think of something, you know, but like I could perform that.
Hmm.
Uh, with the let's say with the installation, I think instead of just launching the thing and it's randomly playing by itself, I could decide what sequence I want to play and how long, and so it could be possible, probably. Yeah.
And you said right that as I understand, and that you were not alone. That there was some kind of company which helped you to produce this physical, right? So as I understand, you only created all this music, and you write in the software, right? Not software, but you. And then there was company which which actually created that hardware.
Yeah, the all the fabrication part, you need a studio with machines, and you need to be able to generate sawdust and everything. So I don't have that at home, and I'm not really good manually either. So I'm working with people to help me to build those things for sure. So this fabrication lab is called RoboCut.
Mhm.
Uh, we work together for a lot of my work, which are uh, well involving fabrication like that. So yes, this is an interesting topic because at one point I realized in my life, I was a composer, let's say, and I realized I was becoming more and more an art director
Mhm.
than composer. So it's not just about doing the music, it's about assuring, the end result of a project with many parts involved. So I'm doing what I can. So all the programming, well, it depends. Sometimes I'm not even programming, but at least the music, I'm keeping that part.
Good. And in that cooperation with that company, does it somehow change the piece? Is it somehow shaped?
Um, Difficult to say because it doesn't really exist before. So, and it's a bit like I mean, there's a back and forth of ideas. Um, but in the end, I'm the one taking the final decision. I don't know. I don't know how to. It depends what you're thinking about shaping the work. But at least it will shape like the visual side for sure, because they're doing like the work really great and perfect. And like if I would do this myself, it would just look like a 6 years old kid trying to put pieces together. So visually, like the finality of the visual, yes, it is helping a lot. But in the end, the work itself is still like it relies on the decision or the command I'm doing, or
Right.
you know.
And the last question, there is a composers, right? Who would like to create piece with lights, but have never done it before. What would be your free suggestions to them?
Uh, did you say my three suggestions? Is that
Yes,
what? Yeah,
yes,
like three
yes,
suggestions. Okay, so not four. So for people who wants to work with light,
yes.
hmm, that's a good question. My first suggestion would be, hmm, I was about to say not to work with light. I'm a bit, there's a lot of people working with light now, and I don't know. I'm kind of a bit tired, maybe. Um, but let's say I still have suggestions. What would it be? I have to think a bit about that. Um, I would say maybe try to avoid the one-on-one thing, you know, a sound, a light. That's a bit the thing I'm tired of, just having like a sound and a light together. And as I say, it's working. It's always working. But then I don't know. I would maybe, yeah, give the suggestion to work more like with space, and to, like, instead of doing like really discrete articulations like that, you know, I think just to work with, like, go back to more like James Turrell inspiration, and you know, just to play with perception of a space, and um, maybe, and if you want to play with more precise thing and objects, maybe create your own objects, create your own scenography. Uh, yeah, it's difficult. Sorry, my advices are not really good. It's something, so first advice, don't listen to my advices.
Good.
Uh, I would need to think about that more
Okay.
seriously to give some really good advice.
Okay.
Forget that part.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much for interview.
All right. Thanks to you.